Hi, this is Debonee Morgan, and you're listening to The Spirit of Now out of Zeitgeist Atlanta, where we talk to spiritual leaders and influencers about what is going on now. And today we're having yet another conversation with Carl McColman. I am so excited, lucky, and blessed to have the opportunity to share time with you, Carl. And so I want to welcome you back. And we're here with exciting news today. Well, multiple pieces of exciting news today. The first piece of good news that we're sharing today is about Carl being our contemplative in residence at Zeitgeist. So what does that mean exactly? Well, there are a few ramifications of that, but the most important being that at Zeitgeist, we have a sincere desire to create a foundation of contemplation in everything we do. We're about community building, and we want to do that from a contemplative perspective. We are about practice and teaching, and we want our personal lives to be grounded in contemplative practices. And also, we want to reach out into our community, and we do that in a contemplative fashion. And Carl is an expert at that, and Carl has the heart for that. And our desire to partner with him is based on what he brings to the organization and his wisdom, his presence, and his own practice that shines through in everything he does. And if you know Carl, you know that to be true. And if you have not had the pleasure of spending time with Carl, you will learn that to be true. And so, Carl, we welcome you as a partner in this regard, as our contemplative advisor, as our coach, as our inspiration. But let me turn it over to you for a minute and ask, how is the partnership fulfilling one of your desires as well?
Thanks, Debonee. From my perspective, it's really an honor to have this kind of more formal or, structured relationship with Zeitgeist. As you know, I guess I've been part of the Zeitgeist family now for going on 2 years. And I've had the opportunity to teach several classes with Zeitgeist. We've got one coming up this fall. We're talking about putting together this sacred pilgrimage to Ireland, hopefully in 2023. And, and I know you and I have talked about a lot of other possibilities as well. So on the one hand, I think we were already kind of informally building this relationship. So I'm delighted that we are giving it a more kind of formal structure. But as you know, and I assume anyone who's familiar with my work knows that my center of gravity is the Christian tradition. But like so many Christian contemplatives, I have a very strong sense that Christian mysticism is in deep resonance with all of the world's great contemplative traditions.
Yes, yes.
So I know you use the phrase, which I guess comes from Aldous Huxley, the perennial wisdom or the perennial tradition. Mm-hmm. And so, which is as good a name for this as any. And I think that, I'm very blessed to have many venues within the Christian world, from Jesuit retreat centers to monasteries to seminaries to local churches that partner with me to teach Christian mysticism in a Christian context. I'm happy to do that. And I also recognize that Christian mysticism has an important voice in this larger kind of perennial conversation.
Yes, yeah.
And I see this relationship with Zeitgeist for me as the place where the location, if you will, where I can be part of that larger conversation. So it doesn't take away the Christian work I do, which is usually in Christian contexts. I'm still a Christian. My center of gravity is still Christian mysticism. But, like the bumper sticker says, praise well with others. that is the spirit that I bring to this context, is hopefully a spirit of humility, a spirit of listening, a spirit of dialogue, where, as a Christian contemplative, What I'm interested in is exploring the way to be contemplative in the world we find ourselves in, the spirit of now, as you say, in this context of meaningful relationship with people of all wisdom traditions, or people who are not aligned with any specific wisdom tradition, but who still discern within their own heart this call to a more contemplative stance. So, being a contemplative in residence, what does that mean? That doesn't mean I'm going to be sitting in the corner meditating while you have classes.
Wait a minute. I thought we'd discuss this, Carl.
No, that was only on third Thursdays of alternate.
Oh, okay, right, yeah.
But obviously it does mean that, as I continue my practice, I see the Zeitgeist community as part of my larger circle. So I'm holding that intentionality on a daily basis. So, I am, it's funny because monks pray for the world. So I contemplate on behalf of the Zeitgeist community. So that I see as kind of part of the spiritual commitment. But then on a more nuts and bolts level, just the reality that I will be part of the ongoing conversation, whether that means, again, teaching courses, being available for some of the cohorts and the work that they're doing, leading a sacred pilgrimage, or whatever else we might cook up in the meantime. So.
Right. And each one of those is something, as you've said, that you've done in the past and will continue to do in the future. So being accessible to our students is such a gift. And of course, people will hear more from us as we start planning our island trip. But as a pilgrimage and retreat leader, Carl, you're just amazing. And I'm so excited about that. A few other nuts and bolts things that I want to put out there is that you are a spiritual director, as are the people that we've trained. And so for people who would like to do spiritual direction with you, they can access that through our website. They can hook up with you for that. And also, Carl, what you do as a spiritual teacher is so important. And I know that a lot of people would like to support that financially. And so on our website, we will direct them to your Patreon, and people can support you via your Patreon account. And also people will be able to donate to Zeitgeist in order to support your mission as well, because we will have a budget line that is supporting our contemplative in residence. So that's another possibility for people as well to support your ongoing work.
Well, and, money is not my long suit, but but one thing that I will say that may be of interest to people who are interested in supporting both Zeitgeist and my own work is that Zeitgeist is a nonprofit organization. Mm-hmm. And so I think part of the agreement of this relationship is that any donations that are made on behalf of supporting my work will support the organization as well. So, right. we will share that donation. And then the benefit to the donor is that because Zeitgeist is a 501c3, that will be a tax-deductible donation for them.
Absolutely, yeah.
I mean, people who support me via Patreon, for whom I am profoundly grateful, do that out of the goodness of their heart, because I'm not a tax-exempt entity, so they don't get any tax benefit from that. But any donations made through Zeitgeist would have that tax-exempt status.
Yes. And like you said, do support Zeitgeist to a certain extent. So right. Full disclosure there. Mm-hmm. But that's the beauty of a partnership. Right. Right. We've got a co-occurring mission. Mm-hmm. So we just can't shout that from the rooftops enough, Carl. We're so proud to have you associated with the organization. And our other good news is your new book that is coming out at the end of June. And, Richard Rohr loves your work, and anyone who's ever read it would certainly say the same thing. We hosted a book launch for you year before last, and you are prolific enough that here we are excited to do it again. So the new book is called Eternal Heart. Tell us about that, Carl. What is an eternal heart, and what are we going to learn about it when we read the book?
Well, the book comes really, I guess the genesis of it, all puns included, comes out of a verse from the Hebrew scriptures, from what Christians call the Old Testament, in the book of Ecclesiastes, which is an amazing book of existential philosophy. Let me digress just a little. It's if anyone is interested in kind of existentialism from 2500 to 3000 years ago, go read the book of Ecclesiastes. Fascinating text. But there's a line in that text, it's almost a throwaway line, but I remember reading it one day and it just lit my imagination. And it basically, is talking about spirit, God, that the divine has placed eternity in our hearts. And I think that the full verse it's like Ecclesiastes 3:11, that God, the spirit, the divine, has made everything beautiful in its time and has placed eternity in the human heart. And when I read that, it just caught my imagination. And I thought, this idea that by divine act, every one of us carries eternity in our hearts. Well, what does that mean?
Right.
How do we make sense of that? Is that just poetry? Was that just, the author of Ecclesiastes waxing poetic? Or is there a spiritual principle there that we can actually embrace and manifest and live according? So I kind of went on this, a little bit of a detective, put my Sherlock Holmes hat on and just started reading what else, beginning with the Jewish and Christian scriptures, but not ending there. What else did the sacred tradition have to say about the heart? And I actually identified in the Jewish and Christian scriptures 8 specific gifts about that and the human heart, gifts placed in the human heart. And I will mention this, just bracket this, since the book has gone to press, I've actually found 1 or 2 more. It's like the Bible is just filled with these gifts that are given to us in our hearts. So maybe there will be Son of Eternal Heart in the future, or Eternal Heart, the next generation, but the additional gifts, but the bonus gifts or something. But but for the purposes of the book, there are these 8 gifts that are in our heart. And so I didn't want this just to be a book of Christian spirituality. Mm-hmm. So with each one of these gifts, I do like a 3-way dialogue, where I have the actual passage out of the scriptural tradition, then a voice from a mystic, and then a voice from outside the Christian tradition.
Oh, I love that structure.
So Thich Nhat Hanh shows up, Pema Chodron shows up, Mirabai, not Mirabai Starr, but who Mirabai Starr was named after, the poet Mirabai shows up. So several voices again from the world's sacred traditions. And I also, because I'm a Jesus nerd, I also have Christ in there, his Beatitudes, which of course were basically affirmations of blessing for people who calibrate their lives to certain ways. So I connect each one of these gifts of the heart to a beatitude, the voice from a mystic, and the voice from another tradition, to essentially make this kind of sustained meditation on what are the gifts that we already have in our hearts. This is, I guess, one of my things is that spirituality, we have so many images. Spirituality is a journey, spirituality, the ascent of Mount Carmel, the stairway of perfection, Merton and Dante, the 7-story mountain, always these images of journey and of passage. Mm-hmm. And I think that's because life is a journey. So it's a valid metaphor. But the problem with that metaphor is that it makes it sound like spirituality, spiritual wisdom, spiritual gifts are something we have to attain.
Right, like you're not there yet.
Exactly. And I think the gifts of the heart are a reminder that what you have is already in you. Mm-hmm. And what you need is already in you. Now, maybe it hasn't been activated. Maybe it hasn't been manifested. Maybe you haven't turned the key, but the treasure is already there. So that's really what the book promises to be. Now, the subtitle of the book is The Mystical Path to a Joyful Life. So my promise for the book, and I hope readers will find that the book makes good on this promise. My promise is that when we embrace these gifts that are already given into us in our hearts, we are walking the path to joy. And I know many people will say my life is anything but joyful. I know there's so much suffering in the world. There's trauma. People have been, hurt by economic injustice or systems of privilege, so many ways in which our lives lack joy. I believe that the gifts of the heart are an essential key for those of us who feel that our lives lack joy to reclaim the joy that is ours by divine birthright. And then for those of us who, I'm very privileged to say that, I am a happy person. I do believe my life is shaped by joy. Then it's our responsibility to share that with others. How can I take the joy that is welling up out of my heart and use that to spread the love, as it were? So that's really what the book kind of explores. So.
I love that. And I love how you are being holistic about it. I love how there is a place for this way of being, even when someone is struggling or suffering. And the fact that you connect each of these gifts with a beatitude, I find that to be very, very powerful, because so much of you just, saying what we all already know, so much of Christianity has been focused on the happy, happy, joy, joy. And if that's not where you're at, then you're not connected to the divine. But we know that that's not true at all. Mm-hmm. And the gifts of the heart are the same gifts, no matter what is going on today or this week or in the middle of a global pandemic, right? That the gifts remain constant. And it's a matter of how well we can attach to them and how well we can live into them. And that probably varies day to day, but the consistency of what's available to us is beautiful.
Yeah, the gifts do not guarantee that you have a happy, clappy life. And one of the things that I think is so important is that we acknowledge our traumas and our suffering and our shadow experiences, because very often there's a call to justice. There's a call to create better relationships, better social structures, those kinds of things. That's a lot of hard work.
Yeah.
But that hard work, I believe, needs to be anchored in joy, needs to be anchored in faith, in trust, in an optimistic recognition that the spirit is a spirit of happy endings. And so no matter how dire our circumstances are today, we are always given the promise that we can co-create a better tomorrow. It may take a lot of work, may take a lot of struggle, and that tomorrow may be a long time in coming. What was it that Martin Luther King Jr. said? I'm probably misquoting him, but something to the extent of that the arc of the universe is long, but it does bend towards justice. Yeah. And so I would add to that, it also bends towards joy.
Yeah.
And that when we are in the place where justice is, we are also in the place where joy is, or joy can be. Joy can blossom and flourish. Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. So, I don't know that you can. Emma Goldman, if I can't dance, I don't want to be part of your revolution. I don't think you can have true justice without joy, or without at least the opportunity for joy, the first fruits of joy. Mm-hmm. And I don't think there's an authentic joy without real justice, or at least a concerted effort to create justice and dismantle injustice. The two go together.
Yeah. Well, it takes us out of our self-concern and self-focus.
Yeah, exactly.
You can't do justice without compassion and empathy. Mm-hmm. And you can't do compassion and empathy without these gifts of the heart that you're talking about, right?
Which includes compassion and empathy towards one's own self too. Right. So right. So that's the book. So yes, I'm very excited about it, and I've been working on it for several years now. So it's always this very exciting moment when we're, it's about to be unleashed on an unsuspecting world.
The baby is almost here. Yeah. So speaking of almost here, the launch event is going to be Tuesday, June 29th, and Zeitgeist is sponsoring that along with Mary and Martha's Place, another Atlanta organization that we'd love to partner with. And this will be a virtual event. So people, wherever you are, you're welcome to join us. And Carl, of course, will be reading some from the book as you do. And you can find out where to order the book at the event. And also we'll have a few guest speakers also talking about the perspective of the heart and the gifts of the heart, including Loretta Coleman Brown, who has been associated with us before as well. So, Carl, anything you would want to add about the event?
Yeah, you mentioned there will be several dialogue partners, guest speakers, a wonderful Decatur, Georgia-based musician named Caroline Herring, a folk musician. She will be with us. And then a West Coast author and spiritual director named Colette Lafia, who actually has a brand new book this season called The Divine Heart. So all of us, and Caroline has several heart-centered songs. So all of us are kind of heart people. Loretta, When the Heart Speaks, Listen. Colette, The Divine Heart. Myself, Eternal Heart. So really this event, I didn't just want the whole event to be about me and my book. That felt kind of weird. So I wanted to invite, friends, colleagues, people who I admire, who are also kind of on this heart journey. So really this event will be an opportunity for us all, including, the people who participate, to reflect together on the gifts of the heart, the promises of the heart, the wisdom of the heart, those kinds of things. So that's really what we're going to look at. The heart, every sacred tradition recognizes that the heart is the seat of contemplation, to bring this back to being contemplative in residence. And contemporary heart research, the Heart Math Institute and other organizations that are approaching the heart from kind of more of a neurological or empirical perspective, recognize that the heart has the second highest concentration of nerve cells in the human body. So the heart really is, we talk about like the heart's intuition. The heart really does know how to know, but it knows not in that kind of linear cognitive way that we associate with the mind, but in more of that holistic, embodied, deeply intuitive way. So that's the kind of stuff we're going to be celebrating at the book's launch. So
yeah, that is so powerful, and maybe we can even sneak in a heart meditation too.
We'll see.
We still got a little more planning to do, so lots of surprises. But we invite all of y'all to join us. Like I said, it's virtual, so no matter where you are welcome to join us and learn more about the book, learn where you can get the book, and get to meet our Zeitgeist Contemplative in residence, Carl McColman. Thank you so much for your time today, Carl. I am stoked about June 29th, and folks can learn more at our website. That's zgatl.org. And you'll see something about this on the front page. So sign up, and we'd love to see you then. Thanks again, Carl.
Oh, thank you, Debonee.
About June 29th, and folks can learn more at our website. That's zgatl.org. And you'll see something about this on the front page. So sign up, and we'd love to see you then. Thanks again, Carl.
Oh, thank you, Debonee.